Well, bright blessings and happy Beltane. So tonight is spiritual panel in addition to being Beltane. So I hope you were able to have a beautiful Beltane ritual if you were celebrating tonight. I celebrated and had a beautiful ritual. So now I'm ready to be here and enjoy all of your company. So, got yuckies on the glasses, but all good. So welcome, welcome. So tonight we are talking about the planet Venus. So we're going to be talking about Venus in magical practices, how to incorporate it into your spiritual practice. And then of course we have to dive into how to use it in our astrological charts. So that's kind of a really important thing to do too. So of course we will do that. And this is open panel, so if you have had experience with Venus and you want to jump up on panel, you are welcome to jump up. And I know Bren's here, so yay. Hey, Bren, happy Beltane.
Hey, I'm so excited for this. Oh boy. Like what I mentioned before a few days ago and even last week. Information that is not really paid attention to about Venus, I'm going to spill the beans. And I'm going to just say it's going to make your eyes go, what? Yeah, it will.
Yes, Venus is like huge, and I think what's really cool is like I did not plan this. Like I literally, when I decided to do all the planets, when I set out which planets to do, I ironically did them in order of days of the week. So that was really interesting. But today being Beltane, this is actually like a beautiful Sabbat filled with love. So like I could not have picked a better day to have this particular live. Ooh, look how beautiful.
Yes. The Heindsets, and these are the 6 ones I've got this season, but they're so fragrant. And actually, the Hindset is a Venusian plant too, because it has to do with the qualities of Venus that I'll get into a little bit later when people get in. But yes,
I noticed today they weren't, well, I didn't look yesterday. Like I was like, did I look yesterday? But like I know for sure on Tuesday my bleeding hearts weren't out, and they are out today, and they look so beautiful. It was just so nice to see my bleeding hearts out, and they actually are associated with Venus too.
Yep. I think it's the aspect of the what is that called? It's like the I don't want to say like the morning of love, or like during the part of love where you have to kind of put yourself through a lot of suffering in order to maintain the love. I don't want to make it sound like too negative, but it's like love that tests you to see if you're really genuine with this kind of a love for another person or what have you.
Well, we'll jump in. I'll start with the magical aspect. I'll do a little bit into the goddess, and then we'll start to go into the zodiac. So I'll do a little bit with the zodiac, and then we'll let you like take over. Oh, and if anybody didn't see the video, yes, I did use the song from Bananarama, I'm Your Venus.
I knew it.
Yes. I'm like, is this one on TikTok? And it was. So I was like, score. So, because that song's been in my head since like me and Azrael were singing it on Tuesday. So, all right. Well, Venus is so great to use in our magical and our spiritual practices. So if you've not yet had the opportunity, we're just going to kind of jump in a little bit into Venus, because I'm your Venus and I'm your fire. Your soul desire. And that song is literally perfect. So if you don't remember that song from Bananarama from like the mid to late 80s. So in magical practices, the planet Venus is associated with love, beauty, harmony, and attraction. It's also linked to relationships, self-love, and femininity. So, and we need to balance our masculine and our feminine energies. And we've had quite a few masculine energies that we've talked about. And so we're on one of the most beautiful ones, I think. So, when we actually are incorporating Venus into our magic, we can use this to enhance our manifestation and our intentions. So if we need to use love, if we need to enhance an existing relationship, if we want to attract abundance or beauty into our life, if you want people to see your beauty, glamour spells, Venus is there for you. And one thing I like to do, let me grab a candle. I've got candles right here. With candles, I'm a huge candle magic person, so I usually always say candles. So I have this beautiful tool called a burin. It's pokey on one side, so if you want to if you need blood magic, it works really great for blood magic. I love it for carving candles. So, and we've got red because red is the color of love. It's also one of the colors associated with Venus. So if you want to enhance your magic, especially like if you want to, enhance your existing relationship with your loved one, your significant other, you can put your name and your significant other. You can carve your names in there, and you can actually carve the sigil it's actually not a sigil, the glyph for Venus, which is really easy. It's the feminine sign, but you can actually put that in your candle and do a simple candle spell if you want to enhance. So that's like what's really nice is how we can use, I use candle magic all the time because it's fast. And we want our magic to be fast sometimes. Sometimes we want it slow. So if you do want a nice romantic evening, you might not want to use the candles. You might want to use like something slow if you want it to be a nice slow evening. So Venus is used in love and relationships. So if you need to do a spell or a ritual to attract romantic love, strengthen your existing relationship, or even if you just need to promote self-love, you're going to incorporate the planet Venus into your magic. Also, the day of the week, I should have said this, is Friday. So if you really want to boost it, you would do these spells on Fridays to boost it. So not only can you use the glyph for Venus, but you can also incorporate it into, and I love that. Ooh, thank you, Bren. And I love as we incorporate these. All right, so Venus is also good for beauty and attraction. So if we want to enhance our natural beauty, or cultivate an aura of charm, or if we're doing glamour magic, we would use Venus. So one way you can do that, if you wear makeup, you can, like if you're using powder eyeshadow, you can actually do the glyph of Venus to get your eyeshadow on your brush or your sponge. Same thing. You can, if you're putting like, I almost said primer. We don't put primer on our face, foundation on our face. You can actually do the glyph and then before you spread it. And same thing, if you're putting your blush on, you can do it as a glyph or what, and you could even actually do your eyeshadow and put the glyph of Venus outside. It will get people going, wow, what's that? But that's how we can use this in beauty and attraction and glamour magic. We also use Venus for harmony and balance. So aesthetically, it's very harmonious to have love in our lives. And actually, like when we are bringing love, self-love and love just in general, like love for everything around us, we put off this beautiful aura and it just attracts people and makes people want to come and be around you. So that's one thing that Venus does do. It's aesthetically very harmonious. And if we want to do rituals for peace and well-being and balance, we really do. We want to bring Venus into those rituals because it has this power, just this really strong, amazing power. It's also, Venus embodies the feminine aspect of life. This includes sensuality, intuition, and creativity. So if you're feeling a little more masculine than feminine, sometimes we want to invoke Venus. So like I'm an Aries and I tend to be sometimes kind of a tomboy, but there are days I'm like, nope, I got to be feminine and beautiful today. So it's like good to invoke Venus, but it's really good to invoke that to help balance out our masculine and our feminine energies. So that's like another really great thing we can use it with. So when we are creating magical spells and using Venus energy to manifest, again, we really want to understand that it enhances love. I don't typically do love spells to bring people together. Like I will do love spells to bring more romance into like my relationship with my spouse. I will use love spells to enhance the love that like my children and I might have, or maybe my parent, I have one parent left, or maybe my siblings, but I don't ever do love spells to like attract a mate. I feel like it kind of can, what if we attract somebody who's not right for us, right? We don't want to do that. So that's kind of why I don't do that. But for self-love, Venus, hands down, she is going to be there for you and she's going to help. Because if you've got like a low self-esteem, you are lacking self-love, and many generations were not taught how to love ourselves. We were taught to give, 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 give. And so we have a hard time asking for help. And when we need help, getting that help, or just even taking care of ourselves. And in order for us to be of service to the world and others, we need to have self-love. So Venus is so beautiful to bring into our lives for self-love. And when I say that self-love, we need that to bring our self-esteem up, but also to make sure that we have this beautiful healing energy. And we do need to have that healing energy into our lives. So Venus is who we want to incorporate. And again, we want to do this on Fridays because Friday is Venus's day. We can also, we don't have to do spells. So if you're like, I'm not a witch, and yeah, I am, I'm also a pagan, we can actually manifest Venus by doing meditations and visualizations. So it has nothing to do with spell casting. So just in your spiritual practice, if you're like, I need to cultivate more self-love, or I want to be more loving person, I want to balance all these beautiful, like this harmony and this peace and this love that Venus can bring, you can do a meditation or a visualization because Venus is there for us in our spiritual paths. So if you want to set up an altar to Venus or to incorporate Venus, you would want to use like roses, pink or red roses. We can use red, pink, or green candles. Those will help enhance. And then let's get into the crystals associated with Venus. And, I didn't even grab crystals because I was doing Beltane. But so I if I have one close by, I'll show you. But if I don't, I will just tell you about it. So, one of them actually is rose quartz. So I will grab my rose quartz baby. I love her so much. So I have to give her a bit. So here's rose quartz. She's absolutely beautiful. Actually, and she's also for Beltane. Today's Beltane, so rose quartz. She's got a lot of self-love there. Beautiful, beautiful one. I love this one. It was funny when I got her. I'm just going to tell this story. I could see her from across the table. I was at a crystal and gem show, and you can see she's got little cracks and stuff, but I could tell she was self-healing, and I was like, oh. So when you see crystals that have cracks in them that have fused back together and healed, it's really, really strong crystals to work with because they know how to heal themselves. And I could see her across the table, and some girls were like by all of the rose quartz, and they picked her up a couple times but put her down. And I heard one of the girls say, she has too many cracks, I don't want her. And as soon as they left, I ran over and picked her up, and I was like, yep, you're supposed to come home with me. So she's my baby. So that's rose quartz. So rhodochrosite is another beautiful, I love working with rhodochrosite too.
I have that one.
Yeah, I have so much most of my rhodochrosite is jewelry. I don't have my earrings. I should have put my earrings on today. But I've got a necklace, I've got earrings. So rhodochrosite. Ooh, I love working with rhodochrosite. There we go. Yes. Ooh, that's a beautiful one too. Yeah, I don't even have any tumbled. Like I have some rhodochrosite roses and then yes, yeah, they are gorgeous. Okay, so it's on my altar upstairs. I've got 3 rhodochrosite roses with 2 amber honeybees. Yeah. Yes. I won't even tell you how much I spent on those. They are like my prized possession. Like I'm showing them to my daughters and I'm like, just so you know, like when I pass, these are not just to be thrown away.
And funny enough, that's what Venus is. Venus is that what makes you feel like, oh, this is luxury, the
Yes.
highest of conveniency and comfort.
Yes, yes. And it's just perfect because the amber bees are about this big and the roses are maybe about this big. So I have the bees, like I move them to the different roses because I've got 3 roses and 2 bees. So they have to move to the different roses.
Oh, that is so touching.
And it wasn't like it was just random. Like I happened to be on a website and there they were and they sold out within hours. I was like one of the first people to see them when they got posted. So it was pure luck I even got them. So so yeah, it's not common, but yes. So emerald is another one that we can work with that is associated with Venus. And diamonds, another one
Yes,
associated.
diamonds. Yes, that's a definite yes.
Yes, yes, yes. So most of the time, and this is just kind of just so that you get the idea, a lot of the clear pink and green crystals are associated with Venus. So I'm only giving you like a couple of them. Honestly, my Perseli bluestone I know is associated with Venus also. So, and green amber is actually associated with Venus, and green amber is amazing to work with. It is very rare. So if you do happen to come across green amber, it is beautiful, beautiful to work with. So definitely one that you would want to grab if you have that opportunity. So our herbs and flowers, rose, of course, and this time of the year, lilacs. So I love that lilacs are out. As a matter of fact, I'll probably go live tomorrow afternoon, early, just so that I can show you Lilacia Park, because there's tons of lilacs and it just smells so yummy. Basil and lavender. And these are just a few of the herbs. Actually, raspberries, which is one of my favorite fruits, is also associated with Venus, as is hollyhock and foxglove. A lot of the very beautiful flowers that we have are associated with this amazing, amazing planet. All right, so now I'm going to just kind of, I didn't see any questions, but I do want to throw out thank you for all the hearts, especially since we're talking about love and Venus tonight, because yes, that's right, Venus is love tonight. This is really our heart chakra, which ironically, see, again, everything happens for a reason, because this Sunday when I'm doing book club, we are talking about the 4th chakra, which is the heart chakra. And no, I did not sit down and plan it that way. It literally fell into place this way. So sometimes things happen that way. So thank you everybody for the hearts. So Venus, she is the Roman goddess of love, beauty, and procreation. Again, today is Beltane. This is when babies are being born and procreation is in the works for usually the humans. So, but she is a central figure in Roman mythology. She is associated with the Greek goddess Aphrodite. So Venus, her birth story is really cool because she was depicted rising from the sea. She's known as the goddess of beauty, and she had numerous love affairs but she had a very strong influence of love and beauty on both the gods and mortals. She did have many children. She was married to Vulcan, who's the god of the forge, but she did have an affair with Mars. So, of course, and like Mars is really great to actually balance out our masculine energy. So, if you need to balance, working with Mars, who we talked about a couple weeks ago, and working with Venus is really great to actually incorporate both of them. But she had Timon, the god of fear, and Eros. He's one of our only gods of love. So there's not very many gods associated with it. There are some associations with Cupid, and one of her symbols is the dove. And as many of you know, doves are birds of love and peace. And usually doves do not do well unless they have a partner. So doves usually do need to be with another dove in order to have a partner. Now, there are a few negative aspects to the goddess Venus. She can be very jealous, and she does have a slight vengeful side. So you do want to be careful when you're working with the goddess Venus. So, and that is there. So, Venus in her detriment and Mars, yes. So, I'm going to jump really quick to a little bit of astrology before I turn it over to Bren, and then we're just going to like have fun and just go, because that's what we do on Thursdays on Spiritual Panel. And again, if you have experience working with the planet Venus, working with the goddess Venus, or even astrology, because we're going to be really diving into the astrology, please feel free to request and come up, and we'll just do nice turns. But until then, I'm going to dive a little bit into the astrology, and then I'm going to let Bren jump in. So you probably have me for about 5-10 more minutes. So the planet Venus, when we are working with this in astrology, and this is the standard astrology. It's not even standard astrology. Oh my gosh, tropical. There we go. When we dive into this, Venus is how we receive energy, and it's how we love. So that's really important for us to know. And why I say that is we can't change people around us. So if, if we're like, oh, I wish my parents were this way, or I wish my siblings were this way, or I wish my friend was this way, I wish my lover was this way, we can't change them. We have to accept them for who they are. We can only change ourselves. However, when we pull their natal chart, their birth chart, and we see where their Venus is, we know how they receive energy and how they love. And we can actually say, okay, when I'm around this person, this is how I need to make sure they know that I love. So I'm just going to kind of briefly tell you about this. So Venus in Cancer, how it receives energy and how it loves, is very deeply and very emotionally. And so they're going to actually they're just very deep with how they love, and they will really be passionate about their emotions. Leo, if your Leo is in Venus, how you receive energy and love is regally and open. You're just gonna scream it from the highest mountain, just how Leos would. Virgos, they receive and love shyly and reluctantly. Libras receive energy and love intellectually and graciously. So if you happen, like your partner, their Venus happens to be in Libra, it's that intellectual. So you have to stimulate that intellect for them. If your Venus is in Sagittarius, you're going to receive energy and love very liberally and externally from all directions. If your Venus is in Scorpio, you're going to receive energy and love mysteriously and magically. And I'm going to tell you, when you have someone who loves in Scorpio, especially if they're like a partner, it's going to be the most memorable person you have been with, whether they're with you now or someone from the past. They will be the one. Yeah, yes, you want to make a
You're gonna
comment.
make me blush. Stop it, you.
It's true, Bren. It is true. Have you ever ran into anybody who knew somebody who had their Venus in Scorpio who would like they literally are the best lovers? I mean, that's what that
Well,
is.
I mean, I have to say, I mean, I still have the same one. So yeah, 15 years, yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And they're the ones that got away that you will regret letting get away. So if you let them get away. All right, but let's go to Capricorn. So Capricorn receives energy and loves with skepticality and superficiality. Yeah, they're the ones that are they're the ones that you have to buy diamonds for. They're going to be like, rhodochrosite, oh, that's pretty, but where's my diamond? That's your if your Venus is in Capricorn. And if your Venus is in Capricorn and you're like, yes, that's me, it's just how it is. If your Venus is in Aquarius, you're going to love and receive energy unconventionally. Keep in mind, Aquarians, that is typically like, they're the ones that can lead protests and they look at everything pretty logically. So they're very unconventional with how they receive energy and how they love. If your Venus is in Pisces, you're going to receive energy and love very tenderly and very mystically. These guys are the very touchy-feely. They're the ones that have to be hugged and kissed all the time. If you forget to kiss them goodbye when you're like leaving for work, they will remind you of it because they didn't get that kiss. So that's just to keep that in mind. If your Venus is in Aries, you're going to receive energy and love very enthusiastically, but very competitively. You're the one that I love you more. No, I love you more. They're going to keep going when you're like, okay, you love me more, because you're finally just going to give up because the Aries is they're very competitive about they love you more. If your Venus is in Taurus, you're going to receive energy and you're going to love very sensually and very beautifully. And finally, if your Venus is in Gemini, you're going to receive energy and you are going to love lightheartedly and intellectually. You'll notice most of the air elements, they like that intellect. So they really want they want their brains stimulated. They want you to think, so they want you to bring something from the goddess Venus and show that, you dug deep on that intellect when you gave them their gift. Oh, we have a question. What is Venus in Aquarius? Venus in Aquarius receives love and energy unconventionally. So they're just a little bit, when we look at the air elements, and this is just my opinion, Aquarians, they are very, they're the ones that like to lead protests, but they're also very intellectual. So the same thing with all the air signs. So you've got to be mysterious with them, and you have to figure out a really great way to unconventionally love them. But they're also receive energy very unconventionally. So that's the brief that I have with the astrology. But Bren, you're going to jump into the Vedic astrology, and this is what we've been waiting for all week.
Okay, here to go. Well, before I even take our first step into this, so that way we're all aware, Venus is my Atmakarka. And Atmakarka is the planet that is the highest degree in your chart. Atma means soul or the self, and Karaka means significator. Soul, self, significator. Mine's Venus. So Venusian traits are essentially part of me. So let's give it a kickoff right off the bat. So firstly, Venus, also known as Shukracharya Guru. Shukra means white, and it is the color of pure white. And also in the back, my background, that is the depiction of what Venus looks like, sitting on a lotus flower in the process of blooming. And in a way, Venus has a similar look as Barispati Guru in his depiction. They're very identical. The only thing that's different is the coloration and whatnot. Venus goes through one zodiac sign approximately 1 month. Venus retrogrades every 18 months and for approximately 43 days. Venus has dominion over the signs of Taurus and Libra, but is also having dominion over the heart of all the fire signs. Point being, fire signs are your dharma, your righteous action. At the heart of your righteous action is Venus. And when we dig a little deeper, it'll all tie together. And of course, Venus has the dominion of those hearts of the fire signs, which are, number 1 is Barney in Aries, which is the expecting mother's womb. The next one is Purva Falguni, which is the front of the performance stage, or the front legs of the bed, or the front legs of where everything is put on display. And Purva Ashada. And Purva Ashada is symbolized by the front tusks of the victorious elephant. And it's also symbolized by a hand fan. And I'm already starting to get the heebie-jeebies. Venus's most well-known feature is how it looks like a diamond in the sky. It is perhaps, if not one of the most vibrantly visible planets when it's visible. Like, you'll be able to see it because it's that bright. The rotation of Venus is the only planet, except Uranus, but he's rolling in a different way. Venus is the only planet that does its rotation the opposite way compared to all the other planets. So, what does that tell you? Well, Venus is wanting to understand the past. She's turning and looking back behind of what had happened. Everybody's moving forward. Venus wants to turn around and understand, so why did this happen? Venus wants to understand. And in order to understand, you have to devote your time and make the choice to do what you feel is right. Follow your heart's desire. So Venus is going against the grain just to understand something. And that's why also, believe it or not, Venus is an outcast planet. She's an outcast because she's going against everybody else. Like how the idea of I want my true love. Well, if you go and marry this common man, you're not going to get much of anything. But Father, I love him. And that is Venus. Going against the norms of the society for love. And Venus does this movement in the sky, which is known as the Great Dip. And so what's the Great Dip? Okay. The Great Dip is when Venus goes behind the sun in a way where it is not visible. You cannot see Venus because the sun's blocking her. Only then to emerge approximately 3 weeks later from behind the sun, as if she was reborn. That is perhaps, if not the most deepest symbolic representation of Venus. Just like with the story how Ishtar, or I believe it's Ishtar, yeah, who went down to the underworld, or is it either one? Went down, they came back again. That is Venus. That is that symbolic reference. And heck, let's take it another level. Lucifer got casted out and swore to rise again. Lucifer is Venus. There it is. He got thrown out of heaven. Okay, Venus goes behind the sun. And he swore he'll rise again. There it is. And heck, take it up another notch. The idea of Good Friday and then Easter. Well, Christ came down, passed, 3 days later, whoop, came back to life. That theme of Venus. Now, we're going to tie that into something much more deeper. So what do we know about those same qualities and how it all ties together? Resurrection. Venus is the only planet that can bring something back to life. If something ends, she can bring it to life again. Especially if somebody has a near kicking the bucket experience, it is said that who comes to save the individual who's in that state that's about to pass over, it's Venus who rescues them and brings them back to life. And that is one of the deepest whoa moments. And we're all thinking like, oh, goddess of love, beauty, and all that. Well, yeah, but she can bring you back to life. And it's also even noted, the touch or the hug or just having the lover close to you, it is known to be perhaps one of the most potent medicines to combat any affliction. It is very potent. And in the Vedic tradition, the avatar of Vishnu associated with Venus is Padashurma, avatar number 6. And his story, to make it nice and easy to go with the theme, he was simply tasked by his father to unalive his mother. And back in those times, unfortunately, the sons had to follow the father's wishes. So Padashurma listened to his father. He came back to his father and said, "Father, I have done what you asked. My mother is now slain." And his father responded, "Oh, you did it? You did? No way. You did? Oh, I'm so proud of you. Tell you what, I'll grant you any wish that you want. You name it, I'll grant it to you. Father, all that I wish is just to bring my mother back to life." What? Granted. Then his mother came back. But that's the theme of Venus. Having life end, then come back again. So it does have that quality. The magic number for Venus, if we're going to go with a single-digit numerology, is number 6. And the true magic number of Venus is the number 30, and that's also the age of where Venus matures. Now, oh boy, here we go. Oh, we're going to get into the good stuff now. The Shukra is known as the one who comes to life. If you ever needed proof of any form of astrology or divinity at all, it is Venus who will appear to you first. And Venus is the one that when you give your devotion, Venus will come in. And that is symbolic. Meaning, if you're able to devote to divinity or something that brings you, if you're able to devote to joy, that's when you're able to then also see the beauty in everything. As well as that's also an indication when you have your spouse or lover come in, or somebody very important to you that's like a good friend, that is Venus. That is the symbolic representation of it. And, oh boy, here we go. Now, Venus also has dominion over legacy. Especially if Venus is making an aspect, a supporting aspect with Saturn, like a trine, conjunction, mutual aspect. Venus can easily be tied to somebody's legacy and make that individual not be forgotten. And when you have somebody not be forgotten, well, that is Venus, because Venus is having them come back to life in your memory. And in the story of the Vamana avatar, I believe I've told that story as well in when we talked about Jupiter. But when Shukra, being the guru to King Bali, Shukra was essentially the one that was preventing Vamana avatar from pouring the water onto the earth, which is also Aquarius, by the way. So Shukra was blocking the spout of the urn, and he was like using his body as a bug to completely like cover it. So Vamana took a shrub, started jabbing into the neck of the urn, and unfortunately Venus got jabbed in the left eye. And because of that, Venus is also known as the blind solar deity, and is also known as the one who is able to see beauty beyond the mundane. And Venus can see beyond the mundane and see the value in everything. And Venus's I would say Venus's strongest rivalry is with Jupiter, Brihaspati. As both of them, Venus and Jupiter, they're both gurus. They will both get you to divinity, but how they go about it is completely different. The end result's the same, the route is just different. And Venus has dominion over the North Indian style chart, which is a chart that looks like triangles and diamonds. And Venus is also known as the child of the great sage Bhrigu, and is also having dominion over Bhrigu astrology. Now, Bhrigu astrology, which is a branch of Vedic, is perhaps one of the most difficult forms of it, but the accuracy it gets, it can pinpoint an event down to the second. It's that good. But most of the manuscripts of it are kept secret, and not a lot of them have been really discovered or shared because they're that powerful, and they have to be given with extreme care and prejudice. And let's see, when it comes to the element of Venus, of course, we're probably thinking, okay, so Venus, wealth, luxury, and all this stuff of relationships, earth and air, right? Nope, it's not earth and air. What? But Libra and Taurus, yeah. Mm-hmm. But what is the number one thing that Venus does that no other planet prioritizes? Devotion, love. Devotion and love is the water element. Yes. And because of that, Venus is tied to the tears. Whenever somebody is crying tears of joy or tears of mourning, that is Venus. That is the fluid coming from the eyes of the emotion that cannot be expressed because it just flows right out of your body. And because of that, Venus's number one focus in anybody's life, number one, is to help them get to their exit, get to their paradise. And also, of all the planets, Venus is the only pure benefic planet. The only pure one, meaning Venus is the only one that will only prioritize what do you want? What can I do for you? What can I provide for you to make your time here on this earth comfortable and enjoyable? What is it that you want? And now this is a big one. This is a big hack here I'm going to give. Whenever you're asking Venus for anything from hanky-panky, spanky-wanky to anything that you could think of, Larry, Curly, Moshe, any of it, whenever you're asking of Venus for something, be as specific as possible. Why? When you're specific, Venus knows precisely what to give you. How to give you it, when to give you it, what to give you it, who to give you, all of that, where to give you it. Because when you have all those details, you're using the Venusian energy, which is creativity. You're creating this scene, and that is activating it. When you have all those specifics filled out, like for example, say you want to have a specific kind of car, like, I'm going to not try and be like really stereotypically woozy-woo, but that is Venus still, too. Say if you want to have a Lamborghini, okay. So this Lamborghini, okay, you want a Lamborghini? Okay, well, you'll be getting your Lamborghini 50 lifetimes away. What? Yeah, you'll get it, but you got to wait for 50 lifetimes. That's why you got to be specific. Venus, I want a pink Lamborghini in this lifetime, preferably within the next few months, and I would like to have it brand new off of a lot, and I want to make sure that there is another person, specifically my significant other, with me while I get this. And I want it because it makes me feel like I'm enjoying this life as good as possible. That amount of detail gives Venus the, okay, I know exactly what to give you, when to give you it, what to give you, where, when, and who. If there's a person or if there's another individual involved, she knows exactly what to do and can start pulling that for you. And that's why a lot of people do have that argument of like saying, well, leave your manifestations, leave everything open-ended so it can come in. Yeah, but the thing is that if you have something so open ended, if you're going to a specific deity, especially Venus, you ask them, okay, thank you for. I'm just gonna go for something even different. Thank you for my lover, Venus. Okay, lover. Okay. Are you talking about like a one-time fling? That's a lover. Are you talking about a marriage partner? Are you talking about a spirit partner? A spirit lover? Are what are you speaking about? That's why details with Venus are very important. That way she doesn't get confused, and all of a sudden she doesn't bring to you something you don't want. And that's one of the biggest fears that Venus has, bringing you something that you do not want. Because Venus wants you to understand divinity through enjoyment, through pleasure, through seeing divinity in every little thing. Hmm. You see how deep Venus is getting, and I'm not even done yet.
No,
And
yeah, Venus is very deep. So for those watching, if you're not taking notes, I do post this on my YouTube and my Patreon, and my Patreon link is one of the links in my bio. So yes, if you're like, I didn't take notes, it's all good. But yeah, if not, grab your paper now. Keep going, Bren.
and Venus is the last in the natural zodiac, the final planet to be given exaltation, which is the sign of Pisces. All the other planets were able to get their exaltation, but Venus had to be patient and wait until it was her turn. What does that also show Venus? Devotion again, commitment. Venus wants to devote and commit to something or someone higher. And that's also why when it comes to like marriage and commitment and devotion, it is something that helps you escape. It makes you, the intent of it is to bring you out of times of suffering, turmoil, and to be in that form of paradise. And Venus is also the guru to the Asuras, which are us, human beings. It is also known as the title of honored by demons, but ultimately, honored by demons means honored by people, honored by humans. And Venus is friendly with number one, her best friend out of all the planets is Saturn. Wait a minute, she's best friends with that old guy? Yeah! Stay off my lady! Damn it. The reason is because of this. Venus wants devotion and commitment and reliability, security. But Saturn is that planet that says, I don't give a damn what gets in my way. I'm sticking with this pretty lady. Saturn, I just adore you. You should have seen me back in my youth, Missy. But that's why Venus is drawn to Saturn, because Saturn is that stability, that strength, that security, and that commitment. Because Saturn will not go anywhere. If he says he's going to stick, he's sticking. You're not going to move him. And in this connection between the two is also symbolic on the other side. Saturn being accepted by Venus, because Saturn is also an outcast planet. He's an outcast. He's all the way outside with the planets that you can see. He's the farthest one out there, and he's all by himself. Venus sees Saturn and accepts him, takes him as he is, doesn't expect anything of him, and just wants him to be there just to be there. And that's also why having either Taurus, Libra ascendant, or Capricorn and Aquarius ascendant, well, for the Taurus and Libra ascendant, Saturn becomes your Yogacaraka planet, your lucky planet, if you have that as your ascendant. For Capricorn and Aquarius, Venus becomes your Yogacaraka planet, your lucky planet. Those four signs are the only, actually, Venus and Saturn are the only two planets that can be Yogacaraka to one another. There is no other planet that can do that. Only those two can do that with each other. And the power compared to Venus and Jupiter, well, if Jupiter were grant you your wish in 10 years, now Venus will grant it in one. Because Venus wants you to enjoy it. Jupiter says, oh, you wish to know this? Go clean toilet. Then here comes Venus. Oh, you want this? Sure, have it. What else do you want? and Venus is known to be able to grant anything, and is knowledgeable in anything that you could think of, because Venus again is a guru. It's just that Venus is a guru of the mundane everyday for the people, and Venus will take you to the liberation or the exit of this place, knowing that that is what Venus does not want you to do. Venus wants you to stay and enjoy as much as possible, as long as possible. But if asked, Venus will take you to the exit. Now that shows you that Venus is also willing to lay down her desires for yours instead. That is devotion. What I want is, even though it's not what you want, I'm still going to help get you where you want to go. That is true devotion and love that we can't even comprehend. Now when we scooch on over to say some more main points about Venus. Yeah. It is very interesting you say that, Tiana, because here's the thing. An angel of kicking the bucket. Now here's the thing. Venus does have that dominion of kicking the bucket. How? Well, when somebody passes away, well, they come back to life. That is the ending of their old self, and then the new self comes in. That's Venus. You're being brought to life, back to life in a new form. There it is. Venus has dominion over kicking the bucket. Yeah, a lot of people think, Goddess of Love and Beauty is about kicking the bucket. What? I thought she was all about this nice loving stuff. Yeah, she brings you back to life, just in a different form. Unexpected, I know. Venus, now, let's see here. Whatever. Venus's quality is intellectual and preserving. Venus's constitution is cold. Venus's number one element above everything else. Water first, then ether. I mean earth, not ether. Venus's color. Now here comes a bit of a twist. Venus's primary color is white. However, any color can be worked with Venus, because it comes from this point. What makes you feel comfortable? What makes you feel luxurious? Any color, it could be any of them, as long as you're also providing artistic with it. And color has that dominion by Venus, because our color sense is from Venus. That's how we're able to distinguish color. The assigned stone for Venus, number one, without a doubt, obviously, diamond. Some other stones. Let me just turn my camera on right quick, if I can just, play Tetris with myself. Okay, so, let me just give this a flip. I said give it a flip, thank you. Turn that off.
He doesn't like us.
Okay, so this is kunzite. This is probably, if not one of the most potent love stones that's known to mankind. This is another piece of it.
Kunzite is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I have a kunzite necklace too. I have a lot of necklaces. If I wore all my necklaces, I would be weighed down.
Yep, so there's what it looks like. Very, very nice. And also, kunzite is essentially a lithium-based stone crystal. But yes, I love kunzite. Another one, well, of course, you already mentioned it, rose quartz, of course. Yep, everybody knows rose quartz. Here's another one. Even though I call this one Morgan Freeman, because, it's Morganite, but Morganite's another one. This one is probably the most Librian stone out of all of them. Morganite is about that equilibrium and balance.
And it is a beautiful stone to work with.
Mm-hmm. And it's also beryl. There's rhodochrosite. Again. And also rhodochrosite is associated with the ancestors specifically for the American Native. And Venus again. The passed on. Venus brings it back to life. So there it is. It all connects somehow.
It does.
Another one. Oh, here we go. Tugtupite. This one's only found in Greenland. This one changes color when you expose it to heat, so I'm going to let that just warm up a little bit, giving it a grip. Another one is cobalt calcite, which is right here. I like to call it Aphrodite calcite. Nope, it's not a piece of candy. It looks like a piece of candy, but it's not. Another stone would be, of course, pink sapphire would be one. Another one would be rose sapphire, as well as I just had it and I lost it. What the heck is that called? Crud, what is that called? Begins with an L. Lipodolite?
Yeah, lepolite.
Yeah, that one. That's another one. And you can also say as well, crud. Like, my brain is going so fast and I'm trying to remember them all. Crud.
Are you thinking chartrite too?
That was it.
It helps that we cross over with our learning.
Yep.
We can get it. We sync here, so which I love lepolite and chartrite. They're both amazing. Well, actually, yep. Here's one of my lepolites.
I don't know if you can see the. Oh, yeah, there you go. You can see a little bit of the pink at the top right there.
Yeah.
And let's see, what else do we have? That's also. Well, since I'm thinking about it right now, I might as well just also get the tarot cards associated with Venus. Now, of course, technically, of course, but also the Empress, the Nine of Cups. Why the Nine of Cups? Well, it's a wish card. It's that fulfillment. It's having everything that you want. I'm going to save that one for last because that one's going to be an eye-opener. Of course, Justice. Venus is, again, about diplomacy and wanting to have that fairness and equality. Now, the Lovers. Now this one's going to make you think. It's making the choice. The first one was the Two of Cups. The next one was the Empress. The next one was Nine of Cups, and then Justice there. But now this Lovers is making the choice. Following your heart to choose. And if you notice up there, Cupid, put the bow down. Put it down. But with the Lovers, like what you mentioned earlier, actually, here's another stone. Another stone for Venus is thulite. This thing, I will tell you, this thing's a flirt. It is a flirt. I will just say that, and that's the end of that. But when it comes to with the Lovers, how am I going to put this? With Cupid. Now, Cupid has a brother whose name is Antaros. Antaros, if Cupid's about the young, gullible, innocent love, Antaros is that love that's like, you're going to stick. It's like the Saturnian form of love. Cupid's more, free. Antaros is like, you're going to stick because you said you'd stick. It's that strict, more mature love. We did that one. Oh, yeah. Now, of course, because it is associated with Taurus, but this is just... I don't think so, because it just doesn't feel right to me, but the Hierophant. I don't think it fits well because I think of Venus and I think more honestly like the Devil instead, because with the Devil, where'd that deck go? Where the heck did that deck go?
Well, a lot of the Devil cards have the male and the female there too. Usually,
just like the Lovers. Mm-hmm. And funny enough, I say because the Devil is that being indulging in the senses, being really on the tangible, physical experiencing with the senses, which that's Venus. But also knowing when, okay, we got it plenty. Well, with a Hierophant, for me, I just feel, it's a guru. Listen to me, or you're going to go to hell. That's Capricorn.
Maybe because the Hierophant is considered the Pope card in the Marcel's deck, and popes or bishops tend to marry people.
Dun, dun, dun!
I'm trying to find a Hierophant card because I see Tina wanted to see one.
Well played. Yep, I'll give that one.
Yeah, I'm thinking that must be what the reasoning behind it.
And as well, the kicking the bucket card, like what I mentioned earlier. You kick the bucket, okay, now you're coming back to life in a different state. And yes, that does also include this, the Judgment card, being brought back to life. And last but not least, this was probably going to make everybody go, huh? How is that related to Venus? He who's hung most, the Hangman. How? Well, okay. There is a tale in the Vedic writings about how Venus Shukracharya, in order to get the Sanjeevani mantra, the mantra to bring life back to those that are slain in battle, he had to do austere penance. What was his act of penance? He was hung upside down and doing his penance. And while doing that, Indra was not having it and ordered his daughter to make a fire pit and throw chilies in it to make Shukra lose his focus and then fail. But he pushed through, despite his whole face being swelled up and just burning. That's when Lord Shiva intervened and gave him the Sanjeevani mantra for that. So, that is why also the Hangman's with Venus, too. And also, Odin. Odin, yeah. Now that makes you think. Odin and Shukra both were hung upside down. Both lost an eye. Very interesting. But anyway. Let's see. Venus's portfolio, as in like title, is the minister. And it's known as a Brahmin, one who seeks knowledge. Venus has dominion over any form of education. Any form of education. But primarily commerce, marketing, housekeeping, botany, literature, designing, astrology, cosmetology, and also couples counseling and social science. Her character is captivating, artistic, passionate, luxurious, and also addicted to drinks. Venus does have that quality with addiction because it is just so pleasurable that you can't stop. Nothing wrong with that, just know your limit. The sound that Venus makes, da, da, nice and easy. She is also associated with Lakshmi Devi. She spends one sign in a sign, it's 1 month. She has the longest planetary time period of 20 years. What does that tell you? When is her period? She makes sure she gives you the most. So Venus's Dasha period is the period where there's going to be a lot of times of tears, times of also wanting to bring life to other people, and at the same time, since Venus does have that dominion with the heart of the fire signs, your dharma, your righteous action, will become activated more. And also practicing and studying practices such as an interest in, say, shamanism may came about. And also the urge to do performances or to be in front of an audience may also be at play. And also the idea of maybe wanting to start doing like mixed martial arts. And in fact, one of the symbols for one of her nakshatras, Purva Ashada, is the hand fan. And what's kata? Well, when you're doing kata, you're doing moves, which is like a dance against an invisible opponent. That's Venus because you're doing a performance art. Venus's own sign and also Motricone. Venus has rulership of Taurus and Libra. Libra is Motricone, where she feels the most comfortable. Venus is in exaltation in Pisces. And Venus gets pissed off in Virgo because Venus is now being forced to, so I have to perfect somebody's way of creativity? How do you do that? How can you perfect creativity? You can't, because it's already perfect. That's where it conflicts. But I will say this too. If you have Venus in Virgo, the easiest way to get to your heart is to make sure that you are stable and you are in order. You have your finances in order, you have yourself in order, you're having yourself in a standing where, okay, I'm able to sustain myself. That will pull a Virgo to you. No problem. Now when we look at the other signs with Venus, Venus in Libra, Motricona, that's where she feels comfortable. There you can see one is it, and also another big major keynote. Wherever Venus is placed, sign and house-wise, specifically mainly the sign though, so you can see how it's being outputted. Qualities related to that placement is how you bring life to something. So for an example, Venus in Libra, you bring life by negotiating. You bring life by relating. You bring life by giving somebody that ability to help them come back to their center. Venus is Scorpio. Well, Venus is Scorpio, brings life to you through devotion that defies logic. And gives love in a way where, let's just say like over obsessive girlfriend. But this Venus in Scorpio will also, you will definitely know that they will have your back and they'll always be there. And if someone crosses you, well, this is my non-existent violin that I'm playing for that person. Venus in Sagittarius. Now, for Venus in Sagittarius, you bring life by essentially uplifting and providing moralistic uplifting to people. You also bring life by helping people strategize how to live their life and how to go about something. You help them strategize and come up with a game plan. And you also bring life by telling people their worth and giving them relations to certain specific figures in sacred texts, or you help them understand the deeper meaning of love. Venus in Capricorn. I would love to just say it like this, though. Think of Venus in Capricorn like you're having what was that lady's name in The Devil Wears Prada? Meryl Streep's character. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I can't remember her name in that character.
But yes, that's Venus in Capricorn. Oh, you did the task, huh? Good. Here's your next set of tasks. Oh, I've already done them. Oh, you did. Let me see. Oh, this is nice. That's Venus in Capricorn. Because even though Venus is in a friendly sign of Saturn, which is Capricorn Aquarius, Venus is able to understand that in order for me to have this beauty, I need to work for it. So, with that in mind, you're able to bring life to people by giving servitude and service to them, and also showing that you're worthy of having the title of lover. Venus in Aquarius. You bring life by being completely against the grain, and as well being innovative, as well as giving ideas where you do not like being told how to love someone or love something. You want to be able to love somebody as you deem fit, in your own way, and also bringing life to groups of people. Because Venus, again, is a diplomat. In Aquarius, it's like sitting around the campfire going kumbaya, yubbity yay. And Venus in that environment brings life to not only herself, but then to everybody all together. Venus in Pisces brings life through devotion, brings life through dreams, brings life through understanding perspective of another, and also expanding that perspective. Venus in Aries. Venus in Aries will bring life to somebody else by taking that initiative, being direct, and also physically being more attentive. Venus in Taurus will bring life to you by making you feel comfortable and experiencing sensuality. Venus in Gemini will bring life to you by communicating and speaking to you and wanting to be understanding of you. Venus in Cancer will bring life to you by being essentially like a mother to you, to nourish you, to help you grow, to provide your needs, and also to provide security for you. Venus in Leo. I love this person. That's it. We'll bring life to you in a way where it's like, oh shoot, okay, I get it. they'll get your attention with that. And Venus in Virgo brings life to you by helping perfect you. And Venus has the relations with the other planets. Mars is neutral. You'd be thinking it's friendly, but neutral. Friendly with Mercury and Saturn, they're best friends. And also with the North Node of Rahu and Ketu. Venus has animosity with the Sun, the Moon, and Jupiter. Yeah. Venus's guna, or way of expression, is rajasic, enjoyment. Venus's assigned metals, primary from the Vedic texts, is silver and copper. Venus's taste, you're probably thinking, oh, sweet. It's sour. It's sour. Point being, with sour, it gets your attention. It makes you become more aware. When you're jolted, you're able to see. You get like that reset, the cleanse. Venus's season is, well, spring loaded. Yep, spring. Venus's mount is a horse, camel, and as well as the Garuda. Venus is also having dominion over the binary coding and also reproduction. Venus has the tight association with those that are Polynesian, so islander native. Venus's flower, primary number 1, the white lotus. Secondary, of course, would be rose. But any white floral plant is Venus. Venus is also associated with the male elephant. Venus's bird is the peacock. That one's a given because it's like the peacock, well, oh, look at you. Bam! Well, Argus, colored are you. And Venus's associated trees are the mango tree, lemon tree, any tree that has sour fruits, orange, grapes, star gooseberry, Indian gooseberry, pineapple. And Venus.
I'm hungry for fruit now.
Huh?
I'm hungry for fruit.
Yeah. And that's really much everything. Yeah. I'm starting to lose my voice too, but yeah.
So now we have a little bit of the tropical zodiac and a little bit of the Vedic zodiac for Venus. Like, how much fun is Venus is just so much fun. Oh, and I think we lost Azrael.
Oh, that also reminds me too. I forgot. I gotta add in the things about like the magical stuff too. So, what can you use Venus for? Well, let's go all the way back to square one. Venus can grant you wishes. Anything you want. What does that mean? Venus can be put into any kind of working. Venus will be more than happy to help in anything that you do. And in fact, probably, if there is something pertaining to wanting to bring something back to life, so bring a connection back to life, Venus will be able to do that and help. And also, say, if you have a wish of any kind, you can always do that on Friday. And also Saturday, because that's also the day of her best friend Saturn. But yes, anything that you want, Venus can assist you with it. Because her goal is, what do you want? I want to give you what you want. So just tell me. But yeah.
Love and passion that we love so much. So thank you everybody for all the hearts, especially since we're talking about Venus, because it is the love planet. So we kind of talked about how we bring energy, how we receive energy and love with energy in the tropical zodiac. What I think is really cool is I didn't study the Vedic zodiac, so it's so awesome, Bron, when you bring it up, because like there's so many, they connect. There's like all these synchronicities between everything. Welcome, Azrael.
Hello. Sorry about that. I had to change my headphones and I was so in tune and I definitely believe. I said believe. Definitely agree that Venus and how it's brought together, how everything connects. I also wanted to start out. May the flame of wisdom and be inspired by the radiant Venus guide all of us here tonight through the path of wisdom and illuminate our minds, so that way we can, receive all this information that Brenda's sharing along tonight. It's so beautiful. I just been so tired. I been restless every night, since Sunday. Every night I've been waking up about the same time, between 1 and 3 in the morning, and I've been up 3 hours that I should be sleeping, and it's just adding up and adding up and adding up, and it just kicked my butt.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Because, like, right now, like, well, we will have, oh, is it Jupiter going? I think Jupiter is going into retrograde pretty soon here. Bren, am I right? Am I remembering right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I was like, oh my gosh, because I was just looking at my calendar and I was like, yeah, we're almost in retrograde with Jupiter. Um, but we've had this energetically this year has been, some years it's pretty balanced, but we've had like a lot of like high energy coming out from the cosmos. So, I've even had like I've like been dead exhausted and I'm like, what is going on? So I understand, Azrael. Mine also is allergies and I'm like, let this rain hurry and come out. Cause like all night I'm like kind of like this because I feel like I'm gonna sneeze and it just isn't coming, but I may sneeze at some point. So we kind of talked a little bit about using Venus in magic. We've talked about the astrological standpoint. We talked about the goddess Venus. Azrael, share. We're going to let you, like, it's your turn.
Know much about it, but you know what? I like what Brand mentioned about, Venus being bitter, that taste, because it's definitely something that you think about it. Also, when something is sour, it makes you pucker. So in other words, you're puckering up for a kiss. Hey, what's up, TJ? Yeah,
Yes.
so Venus will make you kiss Venus without you initiating it. But you know what? There is a fun fact. In astrology, Venus is said to have uh, domicile in Taurus and Libra, meaning its energy is most at home in these signs. Is that true, uh, Bren? It finds its home
Yes.
in the signs of Taurus and Libra.
Yes. Point being is because in Taurus, Venus is familiar with the Earth energy. Yep. So she's there in a domain where she's like, okay, comfort, luxury, and all the things being granted for comfort. Libra is that same energy, but it's more like connecting with another because Venus also is the main kataka or significator for other person. But where Venus is, it's well because ultimately Venus wants to connect. And even though if you put Venus in Scorpio, some would say consider that her fall. Well, it depends. Even though, yes, technically it would be a detriment to her fall because it's opposing the sign where she owns. But still, if we're going to go at it from a perspective of what the planet wants to achieve, Venus wants to achieve commitment, devotion. What's Scorpio? Well, this person's been through the absolute horrific things of the earth and is still attached to this person. Venus is still doing her goal. Is it the most ideal, the most dignified way? Probably not. She probably might have, thrown some spears at some people, probably hexed some people, probably put some people in a hospital, but she's done her devotion. And that's
Mhm.
what really she wants to do, devote.
Devote, yes. And that's very important because when you think about Venus, especially in the evenings, like for all of us, those that are artistic and write music or even do paintings, in the nighttime is when we're inspired by creativity and seeing the beauty in everything. And I definitely see how Venus actually encourages to bring out that talent, and self-express ourselves, whether it's to the poetry that you hear a lot in these communities. They're not inspired in the morning by any other but Venus. In the evenings. And think about it. Most of these poems are about self-worth, who we are as an individual, um, the pleasures of life, and like you mentioned earlier with that white flowers. The beauty of pureness of sensuality and all that it comes with it. It's enjoyment. You know, so it's so beautiful to be here. And I did mention I'm tired, but I still can think. And I could think because I think Venus has actually inspired me to be in harmony with everybody here and find that balance. And without the feminine aspects of Venus, I don't think, right now I could be able to be balanced and stable to be able to communicate. I'm exhausted, but I'm so eager and I love these lives and thus far, all that's been shared throughout the week here. Another thing, about Venus, and I'm not sure how late I got into it, is the part where Venus is associated with relationship, whether it's love or even friendship with others, because every relationship that we have is so unique, and yes, it embraces who we are as an individual. Because when we are in a relationship, especially in a relationship like, let's say, here in this community, on these panels, I with Brent, I with Rowan, and everybody down there in the comments, these are things that actually uh, give me value. You don't have to say it, but I find value in friendship and value in those that I embrace myself with. And Venus, brings those aspects into it where I can appreciate even the most minimal, meaning just the simple hello means a lot to me. And I'm pretty sure many of you can also feel it, So the beauty of it is the value that Venus brings forth to us, because it gives us an aspect of you know, pursuing life and the appreciation of all, because we can appreciate something today, but you know what? Once you look at it from a different perspective tomorrow, you can appreciate it more. And then the next day, you can appreciate it even more. And that's the most greatest gift that what one can gain from learning how Venus can actually give you that harmony and understanding of the value and worth of friendship and relationships. Can you tell I'm tired or no? Can you feel it or no?
I can't feel it because you still have that beautiful energy, but like it does happen. And see, like I'm actually like, because my allergies have been so bad this week. I'm like, wherever I need this storm to finish. We have rain here. Azriel and I have rain. We are in the same area, so it's been raining a little bit this week, and I just need it just to downpour so that all of the
Yeah.
gunk in the air is gone.
And the problem is that we're gonna have rain all throughout tomorrow, Sunday. I mean Saturday, we're gonna rain all day Saturday and Sunday. But I like this topic here tonight, and it's all about us being guided by our heart, and I think Venus, because what I heard before is that Venus was the only planet that was actually named after a female. Is that true, Brent? See, I don't know too much of astrology, but they said it was the only planet that was named after a female. Is that correct?
It is named after the goddess Venus, and I some of actually, I know some of the other planets have feminine energy, but I do think it is the only planet named after a female, and we just lost Bren, so we'll see. Maybe he'll come back up. So, but yes, but I'll have to look. Like next week we're doing Saturn, and I know Saturn is masculine and it is named after a man. So, but I think it really and actually when you think about it, when the constellations and the planets were being named, it was a time period where like you didn't really talk a lot about femininity and about females. So, I mean, there are a lot of constellations named after goddesses, but not as many planets. But that's a good point. Thank you, Azrael. So,
I want to share a quick story
sure.
about Venus. And it relates to it. Once upon a time there was a painter who felt lost and uninspired. One evening, gazing at Venus, this painter felt a surge of warmth and saw the world in a vibrant of colors. She rushed to her canvas, and her art became filled with love and beauty, touching everyone who saw it. And that's it. It's a quick story. Because Venus does inspire us. And that's like the song. You know, I'm your Venus.
Yes,
I'm
on your desire.
liar. She's got it. Yeah. And that's the thing about it. With that aspects, it's self-esteem, build up the self-esteem and your creativity, who you are as the individual, whatever arts, be inspired because you know what? With that confidence come true beauty. And with that true beauty makes who you are, you know. So go ahead. I didn't want to
Oh no, you're fine. That was very
yeah.
beautiful. I'm glad you shared it. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
For those that joined late, yes, we did kind of cover the magic. And if you joined late, I do post these lives as replays on both my Patreon and my YouTube. And I'm just going to kind of go back in just a little bit. When we work with Venus and magic, we literally are working to increase passion and affection and love, pleasure, creativity, beauty. So all of that is we incorporate that when we want to use it in our spiritual life and our magical life. So you don't have to necessarily be a witch or a pagan to incorporate that into your life. And Venus is there for us. And tomorrow is Venus's day. So if you want to like boost that energy, tomorrow is a perfect day to do it because Friday is Venus's day. Yeah, so Venus is just so like there's so much beautiful energy when we work with Venus. And I did kind of show, like, I love doing candle magic. So we can always use Venus's glyph. And you can actually even just use it on paper if you're going to be writing, like an intention down and you want to boost that. You can write it on paper. Like if you're doing vision boards, like I do a vision board every year. And, if you want to increase your feminine energy, your creativity, your love for the year, even if it's like self-love, if you're working on healing, and self-love, we want to incorporate Venus in that. So it's our heart. It's how we love. And, honestly, we can't help others if we don't love ourselves. And so Venus kind of opens our eyes to that, to like start loving yourself more. Give yourself that self-care and that self-love to like boost up your energy and everything that you need. So that, yeah, Venus is just kind of amazing and just really brings us like some beautiful energy that we need. So that's always really exciting to have Venus around. Anything else you want to add, Azriel?
Off the bat, I don't know much about it. I just know that we could see it in a night sky. It was one of the brightest stars. I'm limited as far as astrology. I did have a book maybe 2 years ago, and I just like, man, this is too confusing. I put it down. But you know what? I think just like any gift that we can actually uh use and actually gift it with, the more that we are, what do you call it, genuine with it, it actually resonates, and meaning that it flourishes by allowing us to embrace, like you stated, using the power of Venus. And you don't necessarily have to be like you mentioned, a pagan or a witch or a sorcerer or whatever you want to call it. Labels are labels. At the end of the day, you are you, and your intentions are what you want to actually draw toward you. So that vibration is being drawn by that. But the elements are there for us, and Venus has the elementals that Brent mentioned.
Yeah.
You know, um, it over, what do you call it? It like went over my head type of thing when he mentioned the copper and silver, meaning I've always known that, and when I meant it went over my head is I forgotten it. I never gave it that thought. And just think about it. The protection that those metals can protect us, but also those metals are part of the creation of many things that we can flourish through the positive aspects of utilizing the energy of Venus. If that makes any sense, because that's alchemy, and the magic is within that alchemy because we transmute whatever energy we are using to create a manifestation, and silver amplifies it because it's a conduit. Silver becomes a conduit, and so is copper. Copper rods and copper is utilized. So think about them. Both of those are enhancers of the energy that we have. Like me right now, I am tired, but I just think about it. Maybe if I had a copper bracelet or copper rings or silver, I can actually utilize that to enhance the energy I have right now.
Yes, and they do work. Actually, what's really cool is I just thought, like, while you were talking, we were also talking about how um, Venus really incorporates our ancestry also. And interestingly enough, my grandfather did the sweetest thing for my grandmother. So, copper is actually medically known to help with arthritis. And my grandmother's arthritis was bad, and our doctor said you should really wear a copper bracelet or something. And she's like, okay. And she was telling my grandpa, and he's like, well, we'll find you something. Well, he actually made her a copper bracelet and then carved all her kids' names into it and then all her grandkids. And so every time a new grandchild was born, he would carve the new grandchild's name in. And then it ended up like the whole bracelet had names all around it because she even had her great grandchildren. And when she unalived, we did bury her with that bracelet. But because it was like something very precious to her, it was her family. And it was that love, and I'm just sitting there thinking, wow, like my grandparents didn't do much with astrology. And they were, I wouldn't even say they had left the cult that I was in. Like they would go once a year maybe, but they really weren't in it. But like they had a very strong love bond and everything with their children, with their grandchildren, and with each other. And so, like, as you were talking about the copper, it was like reminding me of that beautiful bracelet that my grandfather made, from his heart, from his love. So, and that's the cool thing with copper is you can like I've carried pieces that have had beautiful carvings in it of like pentacles and the tree of life. And copper and silver, like you were saying, Azrael, they are conduits, and they are conduits to love. And copper has not just, it can be like a piece that's totally inspiring. It's just amazing, whether it's copper jewelry or whether you have a copper bowl that you're working with a copper bowl. So that is, it can be very, very like, wow, like how creative is that? I'm sorry, that just kind of blew my mind because like it just clicked. But yes, copper is very amazing. And yes, it is associated with the planet Venus. So keep that in mind.
And I also wanted to add, but Brent left. I wish he came back. Is that the when we refer to copper, being associated with love, because that just showed it there. And love, when we talk about love, it's represented by either red or pink. And if it wasn't for copper, we would never have rose-colored gold. And it's the copper and the silver that create that rose color. So think about it. How much energy um, the copper brings into the aspects of that, and also represents love, even within something as gold as the sun. The sun is golden, and gold represents the sun. And and that's why I wanted to see how we can utilize the position of the sun, or the energy of the sun, which is one source of energy, being transported into the Venus enhancement, into this, is like a triangular. So we got the sun, Venus, and the connection of us as a triad. Let's just call it a triad of energy sources, and how the sun, I guess it will be called a masculine energy. Venus will be the feminine energy, and we will be the duality of it, because we are physical and the spiritual in that aspect and sense. So we can find love with Venus both in the spiritual aspects and also in the physical aspects.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point to bring up. And also, I'm going to throw out Mars. We've already talked about the sun, we've already talked about Mars, but Mars actually, like the glyph is the Mel symbol, and it's the masculine energy. And what's really cool is with Mars, that's how we fight and how we give energy, where Venus is how we love and how we receive energy. Isn't that amazing to think about?
Yeah, and see, that's the thing about it, and if we as individuals stay stagnant, stuff like this we will never know. So it's very vital for us to embrace the wisdom that we share with one another, and this, and discuss on lives like this, because that's where these notes that we take down and write down, because like I said, I entertained myself with so much other stuff that I really didn't know too much about these planetary bodies up there. But when we connect them with, our beliefs and how it connects to our life and everything, it starts to make a lot more sense. It makes a whole lot of sense.
It does. Well, and actually when we sit with these lives, one thing I love in this spiritual community is because each of us like study different things spiritually and then we talk about it on panels like this, it kind of opens up another doorway of how can I use whether we're incorporating Venus in our spiritual pathway or we use it as astrologically, because not everybody does everything that we talk about. Like I've talked about the magic, I talked about the goddess Venus, I've talked about using Venus. And Bren also talked about, we talked about using Venus in our spiritual path. And then we talked about, I do the tropical or the Western astrology where Bren does the Vedic. And there's so many overlaps and we can learn so much. So it is really fun and really just amazing. I'm hoping that we're inspiring others down there. And keep in mind, Thursday is an open panel. So if you have something you want to add about Venus, please feel free to request and I'll let you up. Because I'm always ready and willing to let everybody come here. And this is a spiritual safe place. I do not approve of any kind of cyberbullying or picking on people. I'll try to give you a warning, but if you do your first will be muted. But that I've only had to do that to one person. But yes, it is a spiritual safe place. And just as a side note, I am live Tuesday, Thursdays, and Sundays, all at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tuesday is Tuesday Tarot, so you get one card readings, whether it's Tarot, Lenormand, or Oracle, and Bren and I and Azrael are usually there. And Thursdays are spiritual panel. So I'm doing a series on each of the planets. This week we're talking about Venus. Next week will be Saturn. So I'm very excited for Saturn for next week. And then this Sunday is Witchy Book Club. So Sunday will always be Witchy Book Club. And we are doing part 2, chapter 4, the heart chakra. I did not plan this, Azrael. Like literally when I decided to start doing the book, I didn't go, oh, Venus is a heart. Like it.
It's hard. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's called synchronicity. And when we see these things, we need to embrace them. Anytime anybody sees synchronicity and things are just falling into place, it could be here. And next thing you know, somebody can go to another live and they talk about Venus or heart or something like that. So these are connections. I do understand. And that's because you're going with the flow, and when the flow it happens, and it's manifesting miracles right in front of you. People talk about divine interventions, divine timing, and when we think of the word divine, think of a vine. A vine extends, and you are part of a vine that has many leaves and many connections to it. So when we are there, we're part of that, and we're going with that complete flow. So it's a giant story, but we're on a day-to-day small chapters, a little episodes of it. You know, so
Yes.
we're on the rightful path. Go ahead.
Yeah. I love how you said vine. So here's a whole topic. Today is Beltane. So for those that didn't join right at 8:30 when I started, I did wish everybody a happy Beltane, and I hope everybody's been able to do a ritual. Again, it's one of our fire festivals if you are pagan or in the occult community and celebrate Beltane as one of your sabbats. But interestingly enough, Azrael, you bring up vine, and one of the herbs associated with Beltane, or one of the plants, I should say, is ivy. And ivy grows just so wild and beautiful and it clings, it's a very viney plant. So how beautiful that you bring that up on Beltane, and ivy leaves look like hearts.
There you go. Yes, I agree. And that's synchronicity. And once you can see it, you can look at it in different aspects because you mentioned ivy, but Beltane, and all this. What is the connection with ivy and Venus? You know,
That's where that's where the heart comes in, because when you look
okay.
at the leaves of the ivy, I mean, it's like a very defined, heart when you look at them, but when you look at them, it does look like it is a heart.
hmm
Mm-hmm.
and Venus, the vine is in a yard, a garden, a nature where it's beautiful. And guess what you see? You'll see other white plants that Brent was talking about. The white flowers will grow along with it.
Yes.
So yeah. So wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And it also, what's really interesting is if you plant ivy in your garden. So if you have like a flower bed and you plant ivy in it, it will make sure the weeds don't grow in your flower bed because it will cover it like a ground cover. But the flowers, like if you have roses and tulips and it will let the flowers come up, but it doesn't let the weeds come up. It's like it knows its purpose, that it's supposed to help make sure your garden looks beautiful. So, and yes, with Beltane, that was like another synchronicity because I did not like it didn't when I was like, "Ooh, we'll do the planets," and when I decided to do the planets, I was like, "Oh, let's do sun because we have the partial solar eclipse." And then we did the moon and it was like around new moon. And then we went through the other planets, and it's interesting because by odd chance, I just wrote them down on paper. Now I know which ones they're associated with, but ironically, I went Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So it was the planets were each associated with the day of the week, which was fascinating. Sorry, I needed to have a quick drink. But today being Beltane works perfectly with Venus, and I did not plan this way either, because Beltane is celebrating fertility and love, which is the same thing as working with the goddess Venus or the planet. Sorry, my allergies are so bad. So another synchronicity. And then I was like, today I was like, oh my gosh, we're doing the fourth chapter on the heart chakra this Sunday. So I was like, wow, every week, this is what's been happening. And a lot of times, I don't talk when Alien T's not on holiday. I don't ask him what he's doing. I just kind of do my thing, but his incorporates always with whatever I'm doing, as does yours, because when you go live, you and I don't like necessarily say, oh, my live's on this.
Oh, as much as I want to, I myself might not even know, so I can't put it out there because then I have to be committed to it. So I try to be not secretive, but hold on to the last minute so that way I have an idea what it's going to be. But yeah, and it does happen. It's just those are I guess you call it the universe confirmation. When these things happen in those aspects, we need to embrace them, and the more that we embrace them, the more they're more relevant. The more they become. You start seeing them more and more, and they flourish. And it's always for a good cause and a good purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I guess you call it miracles or magic, whatever you want to call it. It's just these manifestations just continue because now you gain that flow of creating a creator. And that's why in every aspect we can't be stagnant. you know, we like the saying goes, we have to help ourselves, and by helping ourselves is partaking in it, accepting it, and you will see how much more you'll be in tune with it.
Yeah. Well, and the divine we get that divine information when we're supposed to. And when we start working with it and working through it, it's there for a reason. Um, so it is always fascinating how this stuff always falls into place. So those just joining, we've been discussing Venus, and Venus really does bring us a lot of love and beauty. So do a meditation this week and bring yourself some self-love. And actually tomorrow's the perfect day because Friday is Venus's day. So tomorrow would be perfect to, find a nice spot out in nature. If you're like where it's wet, like where we're wet, just, toss a towel down on the ground and do like a meditation and ask Venus to bring you what beauty you need in your life, or what creativity, because she is there for you to work with you. So it is always fun to check the planets. Also, like we talked about the astrology. So if you are looking for the tropical or the Western astrology, you can get that on Time Passages. It's an app for your phones or for tablets. I really like having it because I have it right in my hand. Because I'll be honest, I know some of them, and some of them I'm like, I can't remember what that is. So it is nice to have it because it's right there. You can also go to Astro Cafe and astrology.com, and you can pull your natal chart for free, and it will break down everything. So it will have your sun sign, your moon sign, your ascension, your north and your south node, and then it will have all the planets that we've been discussing. It will also talk about the houses. And so that's that's always great. So, and then if you missed any of the other ones and you're like, oh, because we've kind of talked about what the energy is on the different planets. So like for tonight, Venus, when we're looking at the tropical astrology, it's how you receive energy and how you love. And just so that you kind of understand how you can work with it in your chart, regardless of what planet it is you'll know. And it's like so crazy when you look at it, because you're like, wow. Like when I looked at my Venus, I was like, oh, that's exactly how I receive energy and how I love. And that helps a lot. Like I talked about Mars. Mars is how we fight and how we give energy. And actually, it's completely polar opposite of Venus. It's the full masculine energy, and Venus is the full feminine energy. And so that's really nice to know too. So I always like what I have recommended, like when I teach my beginning astrology class, and like Azrael was saying, astrology seems scary. When you first look at your chart and it's a circle, it does. It's like, what is this? I remember the first time I pulled mine up, it was very intimidating. And then I took a class where they broke it down, and now I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. That's why Time Passes it is nice, because you can look at your chart. So you can be like, intimidated, or you can click the written summary and it will just give you the written summary. So until you understand how to read charts, and the charts are a bit scary. It can be a little intimidating, because if you don't know all the glyphs and all the abbreviations, it will seem a little bit scary to look at that circle with your little dots on it. But most of them are going to give you a little summary too. Usually underneath, it will like tell you your sun sign, and everybody usually knows your sun sign, your moon sign, your ascension. It'll either say rising or ASC, which is ascension. And each of these actually have an impact in our life. How I like to teach people to work with it is know yours, because then you're going to understand things like how you deal with finances, how you communicate, how you fight, how you love, how you receive energy, how you give energy. Like you start to learn that, and it is mind blowing how accurate it is. That's the scary part, is how accurate it is. But the best way to use it is your chart, and then when you have a significant other, you can pull their chart. Let me tell you what kind of a change it makes. Because for how we love, like for Venus, when I pulled my husband's, I understood how he loved and how I love, and we love each other different ways. So now that I know that when he takes the garbage down to the curb, that's him showing me that he loves me, I understand that. Where before it was just like, that's a chore, right? It's not. So it does help you understand how people in your life love, and it will help you understand that language. I think this is deeper. I know there's that book called The 5 Languages of Love. This goes a lot deeper than just that. It also tells you how to communicate. And I've literally said, like to one of my daughters, I said, you communicate this way, I communicate this way. And she's like, oh. And then I started explaining the astrology to her, and she was like, oh. And I'm like, so when we're in the moment, if I get upset and you see me doing it, it's because the way you're communicating isn't clicking with the way I communicate. So it is really nice, because it actually helps you communicate and build stronger relationships with your loved ones. Whether they're friends or family, it helps you build a stronger relationship, because when you know how somebody communicates, you can change your way to try to understand them. Or you understand, okay, this person's going to communicate this way, and I don't typically like that, so this is why I take some of the things they say offensively. But it really does help your relationships when you understand that. It does take a little bit to get there, so it's like those baby steps to first learn your own chart and then learn how to apply the concepts to those that you love's charts. Um, so Azrael, did that help you not be so intimidated?
No, I'm not intimidated, never intimidated, because I do agree with you, and that's how you can communicate with others and have that compassion for them. It's not that see, I don't know how to say it where, but sometimes we know things that others don't know. And we don't ever want to make them feel uncomfortable or pick at them, in other words, make fun of them. So we want them to feel connected with us. And that's what we want is connection. Relationships are connections with loved ones, family members, people that we work with, or even individuals here on TikTok, that we associate ourselves with. These connections are vital. And once you know who you are and what are just your values, your attributes, your strong parts, and so forth, the same goes with everybody. You get to learn their astrology and you know a little insight on them, and that helps you have a communication without any of you stepping over each other's boundaries. Because we set forth boundaries, and sometimes these boundaries are not spoken, they're unspoken boundaries. But once you can understand the individual, and that's why sometimes many of us are freely open to share our sun, our moon, and our rising. Not because we want to brag about them, but if you understood how to use it, you would know how to communicate with us a lot more easier. And that's the key. The key factor is that reminding yourself, if you want to be in harmony in a place like this where there's different mindsets, different individuals, different backgrounds, and different things, and I'm talking about energies, positive and negative energy. Knowing who you're talking to and knowing a little bit about their astrology really helps you understand them a lot more. So you can touch on these things where you can uh, inspire a conversation versus both of you folding your hands and playing with your fingers. What do I say next? I don't know. And, find things that you can associate with, and that's where these houses and all that stuff also come into factors. But yeah, it's not overnight. You know, um, I got a book, and I'm the type of person that can read a book and catch on to things real quick. And when I picked up the book of astrology, I was so confused. I didn't even know where to start. I didn't know because
Well, it could
well,
have
the
even been an advanced book, Azrael.
well, see, the thing about it is something that you said right now, which is very crucial. Don't look for the answers for the exterior because right now you don't entertain yourself with the exterior. Learn about you through the astrology. Once you learn about you, then if you find individuals that are similar to um your signs, then you already know that. So that's a plus on you. All you got to now is worry about the others, and that's little by little. Practice as you go, and never be intimidated because at the end of the day, you have the power. Don't strip away that power away from yourself.
Yes, yes, very, very true. And don't and I will say, with any spiritual path we pick up, sometimes there are books that are going to get you started, like those, like the easy books, we can say, like the beginner books. And sometimes we get those advanced ones. I did one time, like when I was still pretty new learning astrology, I had picked up because I'd seen um in a Facebook group, people were talking about this one astrologer, and I picked up her book. Oh my gosh, I was like, this is so over my head. And I read it 2 years ago after I've been learning astrology, and I'm like, oh, I needed to find that book to get me going and get me started. Because it does go really, really deep. As with any topic, even like I really kind of specialize in crystals, botanicals, which is our herbs, plants, flowers, and trees. And when I'm talking botanicals, I'm talking both magically, but I'm also talking holistically, and astrology. And then I work with the Celtic and the Nordic magic because that is my ancestral line. And it gets so deep. Like every time I'm like, oh, I want to add chaos magic or I want to add this, I'm like, nope, I'm not done learning these other things yet. because there's so much to learn. And we like, yeah, it's not like you can just, you're going to have all that knowledge. Um, and now I kind of understand, like, when I did belong to an organized religion, like why they always read the Bible over and over and over and over again, right? There's still so much to learn just from reading that book over and over again. One of the big differences, though, in spirituality, we have like so much, there's so much out there, and there are a lot of people who have mastered some of these topics, and people who are like learning to master, and people who are like, oh, this is so cool, I need to pick this up, who are novices. And that's another reason why this community is so amazing, because we have so many different people who've learned different levels, and we can learn from everybody. We can even learn from somebody who's just beginning, because they may see something that we don't see. So you can say, oh, I've been
True.
doing this for 20 years, but you'll learn something new from somebody new. Yeah, Azrael, go.
Yeah, I got something to share too. And for those that are working with a budget, especially, if you don't want to invest a lot into, astrology, because you might not know if that's something that you want to do. And, I'm going to show you something, and I've done it before. I'm going to turn on the camera here. Here. Uh, these are old, so you got to understand how long I've been trying to do this. These are from 2021. So I got 2021 Scorpio astrology 2021, Sagittarius 2021, Capricorn 2021, Virgo, which is my sign, and Cancer. I only got these because after a while I said, I'm tired of this. But each book, these you could pick up at the Dollar Tree. The Dollar Tree, you could pick up one book at a time, and maybe pick up the book. This will be your sun, your moon, and your rising. And believe it or not, these books here, once you go into here, they'll tell you a lot about your astrology. October, I'll tell you more or less, what to look for in that year of the cycle. But it also gives you insight on Capricorn affinities. I don't know how to say it in zodiac with this, with Taurus, with Gemini. So it shows you your I say who
Compatibility.
will be the ideal love partner. Who will be your ideal love partner. Uh, rivalries. Who are your rivals? The main life goal of Capricorn is reaching the goal that sets for themselves. They are very ambitious and determined. They never give up during a fight. But as you read through it, unemotional people, Capricorns, our natives aren't very emotional beings. So it tells you a little bit about Capricorns. So if you meet somebody as a Capricorn, you don't need the whole astrology. All you need is a book about Capricorns and understand who they are. And this is something that you can do. And if it's something that you want to consist, then you buy all the astrologies one by one. And anybody you meet, this tells you who is compatible with you. Here, let me go back into my Virgo. Where's my Virgo? Astrology. Here, Virgo. I'm Virgo. So here in Virgo, I'm just going to show you. Let me find something here. And this is how these lives go. This it's not premeditated. Uh, let me see what this says here. I just want to see the curiosity. Okay, so it's talking about astro babies, and astro babies are characteristics, parents' advice. If a child is too quiet, parents must pay special attention, and this is for a Virgo baby. First uh, decan from August 24th to September 3rd, second decan from September 4th to 13th. So there's different levels of being a Virgo, you know. Uh, Characteristics. We can find characteristics. So the characteristics are symbol. The symbol is a virgin. Element Earth. We know quality mutable. Ruling planet is Mercury. You know what? I didn't know that. Now I know Mercury is my ruling planet. Keyword critical, analytic, and conscientious. House is Sat. Work, service, health. Color is gray or navy, and metal is mercury. Stone is agate, and perfume is narcissus. I don't know how to say the word. Nar.
Narcissus.
It
Yes.
almost. It almost
That's
sounds like
associated
narcissus.
with the goddess Persephone, too.
Oh, Persephone. Okay. Mythology. So it tells you about mythology. So see. So overall, you can invest $1.25 at the dollar store, and get a whole book about your astrology.
Hmm.
And once
That's
you
really
learn
great.
it, yeah, and they have them at all these Dollar Trees. All you got to do. But like I said, this is something I did in 2021. We're in 2025. Imagine if I mastered this from that day now. Then I'd be a good astrologist. But I'm not trying to delve in too much of this because this is not my forte. My forte is being able to communicate and being able to decipher what somebody shares with me. So I'm more of when somebody tells something, like when you say something, Rowan, I can listen to you and I can understand it and then relay it to others so that way they see it in a different aspect. Because that's what we are. We connect to specific individuals in different ways. The individuals that I could talk to, you might not be able to, and the individuals that you talk to, I might not be able to. But we learn, and once we combine our wisdom and knowledge and bond together, we grow together. And when we grow together, it's not what I know, it's who I know, and I know you, and vice versa. We know each other. So, you know what? I don't know the answer to that. Give me a minute or a day, and I will reach out to Rowan, and Rowan knows, and I'll have that answer for you. And that's what we need to connect. When we are interconnected with one another, we're creating bonds. You know, bonds and unity and so forth. So the unity is the you and me as I am and you. So within you, it's unity. And I'm gonna get out of here. Go Bears! Hey, sorry, it's
Oh,
my
all good.
evening.
All good. It's funny that you bring that up, how it talks about compatibility, because the first astrology book I picked up, I was actually in junior high at the library, and it was Love Signs by Linda Goodman. I do own it now. I ended up like maybe 10 years ago, it was like on the discount table at Barnes and Noble for 4.98 or something like that, because it still has the 4.98 sticker. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this was the first book I checked out from the library on astrology. And it is an old book. She wrote it in like the 70s. But it's like, I still like, I look back, I'm like, this was the first book and I kind of understood it. And it literally just talks about compatibility. Like, if you're an Aries, here's what will happen if you're in a relationship with a Taurus, a Gemini, a Pisces, blah blah blah. If you're a Gemini, blah blah. So it's really, but that's great. Like that's great information to know. There's like lots of really great tools out there. And it's just a matter of finding the tools and
Mhm.
also interests.
And have the interest and have the awareness because some of the things are always under your nose, and if you're not specifically knowing what you're looking for, you're never going to find it. And like these I had to dig out of the book. So while you were talking, I went into one of the my boxes. I had books in it, and I'm like, wait a minute, I got to show them these. And it's so beautiful because, like I said, I only have one, two, three, four, five of these. But imagine if I master these five books, and I know all the aspects and everything. I at least have an advantage where I will never be disadvantaged by understanding an individual. So that means, I have five characteristics of individuals that I can relate to because I do understand them. These things here is an example. If I turn around one of them, Sagittarius has a contagious zest for life. Above all, they like movement. Their intuition and great adapting skills help them stand out and get ahead. In addition, to monthly predictions for help, so it tells you a little bit about everything. So, the greatest thing that we all can have is the ability to have free access to everything. Like you said, you had that book from the library. Sometimes when we find stuff in the library, it might be something so unique that we keep, and it's not like, we didn't mean to return it, but it just happened. I have a
I
couple books like
actually
that.
checked it out from the library, returned it, and it was like 10, 15 years ago. I saw it at Barnes and Noble for 4.98, and I was like, oh my. But I remembered that book. I mean, it was so weird. Love Signs by Linda Goodman. Most people who practice astrology have at least read it or they know of it.
Hmm.
But it is an oldie but a goodie because, like I said, she wrote that in um, the 70s. But Love
Wow.
Signs, again, Venus, So, I'm gonna wrap up tonight because it's looking like it's a little bit of a quiet night now. But Azriel, why don't you go ahead and share what's your live going to be tomorrow? Because I know you're filling in for
Oh,
Bluesky.
yeah. I have an idea, and hold on a second. Let me see here. I have not yet done the
Well,
promo.
just say the time if you're not sure on the topic, just say the time so everybody knows when we're
Yeah,
talking.
so the time would be 11:30 Eastern Standard Time, which would be 10 p.m. I mean 10:30 Central Standard Time. And we usually go for 4 hours. Basically, I did have a topic, but I just didn't, post it. But it relates to. Hold on, let me see if I can find it here, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no.
Uh,
Go ahead.
or maybe I should wait here. Uh, Darn it, it's somewhere around here. Oh, mastery of the mind. Encouraging all of us to control our thoughts and use our minds for higher purpose. So it's
Mm,
mastery of the mind. Mastery
ooh,
of the mind.
that's a good topic. Very, very good topic. So usually Azrael will go live about right now. We're going a little over tonight, but Alien T is on holiday, so hopefully he is living it up and partying hard. So, um, and again, it's just great. And a huge thank you to everybody who came and joined, whether you're still here or you've left. Thank you so much for all the hearts and all the gifts to everybody who was on panel tonight and myself. Really appreciated. Azrael, would you like to say your goodbye before I say goodbye?
Yes, goodbye. I'm really exhausted today. Like I said, you can feel my energy, yes, but mentally I'm out of it.
Yeah.
You know, um, just trust, trust in who you are and believe in who you are. And remember, at the end of the day, you don't need to rush anything. For what's meant to be is going to be. And you can't rush the basil in the backyard to grow overnight. So be patient, and you will reap what you sow.
So beautiful. As always, thank you, Azrael. You're such a joy to always have around, even when you're tired. And I'm actually getting tired myself. So, well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I will be here live again on Sunday at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. And again, Azrael will be live tomorrow at 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you're following both of us. And as always, merry meet, merry part, bright blessings, and namaste.